Hi ladies, we are working on these two card projects today for Halloween. We're going to get started with this one first, the witch's hat. I'm just going to set it off to the side for reference. I'm going to very carefully take everything out of your envelope. There's a lot of little pieces, lots of parts and pieces. You're going to find your card base, basic black card base. It's already scored for you. I'm just going to fold it in half, go over it with a bone folder, set that aside. And then there's a piece of Tangerine Tango. It's a retired color. And that is the card front. And then you have two pieces of, let's see, it's 2 3/4 by 1 3/4. Let's do this over here. Oh, we'll do it this way. It's something different. And two of these, which are 1 3/4 by 2 inches. And you're going to alternate them, just line them up. Actually, I want this turned around with that little black. And you want to get a feel for around about how you want them to lay on your cardstock. So there's about 1/8 of an inch all the way around. So I like to, well, I was going to say I like to use a little bit of Tombow glue. That was a lot of Tombow glue. And I'm just setting it on there lightly. Yeah, that's better. And I'm not pressing these down. I'm just lining them up. This is one of the things I like about liquid glue, is that you have a few seconds to move things around. So I'm lining all these 4 pieces up. The very center is going to be covered by a circle, so it's not imperative that it's perfect. I'm doing this with my glasses on, which those of us who wear glasses know, not always helpful. Okay, that looks good. I'm going to turn it over and just give it a little rub. And then I'm going to mount this piece on my black card base. Again, about the same amount of space around all the edges. I'm going to take this, this was the second to largest stylish circle framelit. Let me just show you. It's these framelits. I used the second to largest stitched circle, and I used the second to largest layering circles dies, this one, the scallop circle. And that scallop circle is about 2 3/4 inches, and the stylish shape dies, I think, was just maybe 1/8 of an inch less. All right, so you got your circle, you have your witch's hat, and I took some Highland Heather washi tape, because it's actually quite thin. Let's see if I can find it quickly to show it to you. I'm not seeing it here. It is, I believe, about 1/4 of an inch. So I just put 2 strips onto a piece of cardstock, and then I'm using this witch hat builder punch, and I'm going to punch out a hat band Sometimes when you punch out washi tape on cardstock, it doesn't like to go through all the layers. It can give you a little bit of a hard time. So the best thing to use to attach these are glue dots. You can certainly use glue, that's fine. And I'm just going to line this up. I don't know if you can see, there are these two little bump outs on either side of the witch's hat, and I'm lining up my band right about there. And then I'm going to take a couple of orange glimmer paper stars. Oops. I've got them mounted on glue dots for you, but sometimes the glue dots are not quite centered, so just feel free to fold them back. I'll put this one over here, one up here, and one down here. Oops. And I gave you a piece, it's about 4.5 inches wide, or 4 inches wide rather, of, oh, what's it called? It is called metallic mesh ribbon. It's very meshy, webby looking. So it's kind of a fun thing. The best thing to do, what I did, you can do it how you want it. I squeezed the center of the mesh ribbon together, and I put a dimensional on the back to hold it. And then I've just flipped the scallop circle over, and that's going to help to hold that. I can't talk today. That dimensional is going to help hold the mesh ribbon in place. I just put it basically in the middle. Doesn't have to be. I just thought it looked cute there. Taking off the backings, and then I'm going to line this up. And I want the ribbon coming out the sides, so right about in the center, like that. And then I'm going to take some glue and glue down my witch's hat. I wanted a kind of a jaunty angle. And then you can trim the ends of your ribbon when you're done, so it doesn't stick out beyond the card edge. And then inside you have a panel that's going to go in here, and I gave you a couple of pieces of washi tape, and you can put that on the inside of your panel if you so choose. And then to do your envelope, you're going to open your flap, your envelope flap, and lay it on a, I'm using a silicone craft sheet. You could use a piece of wax paper, or a piece of butcher paper, anything that's going to be non-stick. And then I like to take my Tombow glue and go all the way around the edge and a little bit in the middle. And then I take the fat end of the Tombow and I just smooth out the glue so that there are no lines showing. Oops. Start with your narrow piece of black basic black. Fold it down to make sure you've got it covering. Whoops, it's sticking over a little bit too much. And while that's still a little wet, you can move it. And then you're going to take your piece of designer paper and butt that right up against the black strip. And then you're going to turn it over, oops, and just follow the line of the envelope flap and cut all the way around so that your envelope is decorated as well as your card. So just follow it all the way around. And then we have a coordinating envelope. Again, you want to just trim these ends. I'm gonna, whoops, trim mine so they're not sticking out so much. Excuse my arm. You can cut them at an angle or cut them straight, whatever you like, and then zhuzh them around a little bit until you get them the way you want them. Okay, that's that project. And then we're going to move on to the next project, which is this Halloween card. I forgot to mention that this card I used let's see, you saw the Witch's Hat Builder punch. Can you see that? Makes the stars and the hat band and the witch's hat. And I used, let's see, well, I'm going to list everything that I used in the description below the video so we don't waste a whole lot of time trying to find all my notes. Okay, so this is the next one we're going to work on. And this, again, be very careful. You've got lots of parts and pieces to take out of your envelope. Everything in the back of the card base is for the inside panel and your envelope. So you've got your inside card panel and your envelope pieces. I'm going to set those aside. And I'm going to tip that over, make sure I've got everything. This little piece of designer paper, that is for the edge of your inside card panel, like this. So I'm going to just put a little bit of glue on the back, and then I'm going to line it up just maybe 1/8 of an inch from the edge of your cardstock. I put too much glue on and it's kind of seeping out just a little. Just line up one end, and then if you have any left over, any hanging over, just trim it off like that. So that's going to be the inside of our card panel. This is our card base. It is pumpkin pie. That's super appropriate for the season. Give it a good crease with your bone folder. Sorry, I'm trying to make sure I'm staying in the frame. Not doing such a good job. There, I think that's a little bit better. Let me get rid of some of this stuff. So this particular card, everything is from this retired stamp set called Spooky Fun. It's one that I've always loved, and I have my framelits. I store them on the inside. So I cut all your parts and pieces using those framelits, which is what you see in your kit. Let's start with a piece of this designer paper. This is also retired. I'm gonna put that about, oh, I don't know, 1/2 to 3/4 of an inch from the left side. It's about 1/2 inch. Okay, and then I have this pale papaya circle cut. I used the largest of the circle framelit dies, and I want this right about in the center of the card. Next thing is you're going to take this little fence piece, and you don't need a lot of glue for this. I try to get little, whoops, dots on the bottom edge and on the very tip of the fence post so it doesn't catch on anything. A lot of it is underneath other things, other elements. You want this towards the bottom of the, it's supposed to be a moon. This pale papaya reminded me a little bit of a harvest moon. And then I have the tree cut out using gray granite, and you can trim off these edges if you choose. I've already trimmed them partly for you, but you can trim them more. You want just a little bit of glue on the bottom, and to excuse my husband. We're almost done. A little bit of glue. I don't worry too much about getting all the little branches glued. And I want this right around the base of the fence and left to where that one fence post shows behind the tree. And then for just a second, I'm gonna put that block there to hold it down so that the glue can dry. And in the meantime, I am going to, if I can find my stamp, I'm going to stamp the greeting. Take off, oh, look what I have right there is the greeting. Oh yes. Okay. I'm going to take a glue dot and put it on the back of this little bat. It'll just take a few seconds for that glue to kind of catch hold, and then I can take that off. I'm going to put the bat up there in the corner, and I'm going to use glue dots again to put these pumpkin pie glimmer pumpkins on here. You could also use Stampin' Dimensionals. I just want to cover up that, which looks kind of messy. And I wanted it on this side because I thought it popped off the designer paper. I thought it looked really pretty on that side. And over here, let me get my Memento black ink. Whatever Halloween stamp you have, feel free to use. Hopefully it will fit in this punched shape. I'm stamping Happy Halloween from that same stamp set that I showed you, Spooky Fun. Find my black ink pad and cover that up. And then I'm going to put that, whoops, down here with a couple of dimensionals. And actually, I did a terrible job stamping that. So I'm going to try it again. I pushed too hard. So I'm going to attach it with Stampin' Dimensionals. I'm going to try this again without pushing so hard. Okay, much better. If your greeting is, if you don't like having all this, whoops, white space covering up, you could stamp a couple of tiny bats, you could use some sequins, you could do any kind of extra decorating that you want. But the other thing I was thinking that you could do is on this card, I used the same piece, but I wanted it smaller, so I just trimmed off those bottom edges, which you can certainly do if you have a small greeting. That wasn't very straight, was it? And then you're going to do the same thing with your envelope for this card. You've got a piece of basic black, you're going to glue that down, add your designer series paper, and then trim it off. So that's it. Those are our cards. I hope you have a great time making these together, and apologize for taking so long getting them to you, getting the kits to you. But that's it. Have fun. Happy Halloween.